In this video, I would like to start off by doing some basic introduction into measures of central tendency, namely the mean, median, and mode. Okay, so we're going to call these your notes for this little section. And I have some examples written out as well as introduction to some notation. Okay, first thing, I have a couple vocabs for you. If we call something a statistic, I want you to know that that's a characteristic, or measure obtained by using data from, and I'm running out of space, so I'm going to just say from a sample. I can scoot this over just a little. So a sample. Okay, a statistic is a characteristic or measure obtained by using data from a sample. Okay, so then a parameter is going to be a characteristic or measure obtained by using data from, and I'll change my pen, this time population. Okay, so one set uses sample data, the other one population data. I always remember S for statistic, S for sample, S and S. P for parameter, P for population, so that way those two things go together. Okay, so population and sample. All right, so basic things like mean, median, and mode. Maybe you learned this back. Some people always joke, oh, back in 5th grade I learned about that. So maybe that's true for you too. Okay, so in this example it says, here's a bunch of data. How long the first 10 presidents survived after your inauguration. Okay, so there's the data. And we want to go through and calculate the average, the mean. All right, so most of you are going to tell me I want to first add up those 10 numbers. Okay, so I did that ahead of time and I got 193. Okay, remember this capital sigma means sum. Okay, so we want to add up the x's. Okay, then you're going to calculate the mean. So you've got x bar equals the sum, 193, and then you're going to divide by n. N is how many numbers you have. So in this case, n is 10, because we're talking about the first 10 presidents. Okay, we would divide and you get 19.3, and that's your mean. Okay, also to notice is that over here, okay, you have an x with a little line drawn above it. Okay, that's read as x bar. Okay, that always stands for your average. Okay, x bar is going to be your average. And that's how you say mean. Okay, rounding rule. Okay, we don't want to round things until all the way done with a calculation, but we're always going to say to round to one more decimal place, to one more decimal place than your actual data or your raw data. So like in the previous example, all of our numbers were whole numbers up here. So I rounded to 10th place. So it was one place past that original data. All right, next up would be median. Okay, median I always think of as middle, median and middle. All right, so first you always have to, and don't forget this because it'll mess up your calculation, you want to arrange your scores in order. Always, always, always. Scores in order has to happen first. So in doing that, you'd have a 10, a 15, a 26, a 28, and a 29. Okay? So then if some people say, oh, back in elementary school or wherever you learned this, the teacher said if you just put them in order and you cut them off each end, you're going to land in the middle and that's your median. And absolutely that is true. That teacher told you the truth. Okay, so your median's 26. All right, next example, let's take a look. Numbers are a little bigger, but again, we'll put them in order from the beginning. Okay, so we're going to start at 500, 500, 600, 800, 1,000, and then we're clear up here at 50,000. Okay, so in this case, if you notice how many values are given, I was trying to give you a little hint here. We have 6 numbers. In the previous example, we had 5. So we have an odd number here and an even number of numbers in the second example. Okay, so to find the score exactly in the middle, you can do your little chop method if you want. Chop one on each end, but then you end up here in the center, okay, with 2 remaining. So what you have to do is find that average between the 2 to find the middle, okay? So essentially you're doing 600 plus 800 divided by 2, and your actual median is 700, okay? Also, while I'm here, I usually have a notation for median. We're going to use capital M, capital D, and I used it out of habit in the first example, but that's your notation for median. X bar up here is your notation for mean, okay? So we want to use appropriate notation when you're doing some calculations. All right, last up, and again, I guess I skipped over this, but if there's an even number of scores, I just type this up here. Find the 2 scores that are in the middle, and then find their average. That's going to give you the median, and that's what I in fact did there. Okay, so mode is your last one for today. Mode means most, okay? The number that appears most often, okay? So in this first set of data, if you look across here, you could tell me the mode. What number occurs most? That would be, you're saying to yourself, I bet, 5, because there's lots of 5s here. All right, next set of data. 1, 2, 3. Looks like there's 4 6s. Only 3 2s. I think 6 is going to be your winner. All right, and your last example here, C, all numbers are different, so we would actually just say there's no mode there. Okay. Couple special cases that occur sometimes. Special cases here for mode is one called bimodal. That just means there's 2 modes. Kind of like a bicycle has 2 wheels. Bimodal means you have 2 modes. Okay. Multimodal, multi is going to indicate that there are more than 2 modes. Okay, so more than 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the case happens to be. So in the specials, you can have no modes. You could have 2, you could have more than 2. And then there's just some special little words that go with. Okay, and then the last thing here for this set of intro notes for central tendency is mid-range. Okay, mid-range formula, high plus low divided by 2. Okay, so if you have a set of data, you want to put them in order. Okay, and then you're just going to take, we'll use MR for mid-range, the low number plus the high number, then divide by 2. Okay, so in this case, 39 divided by 2, 19.5. Okay, and that's called your mid-range. Okay, and I'm going to put over here to the side just kind of a note for us. We want to start a formula sheet. Okay, so that would just be a sheet of notebook paper. You can start writing out formulas like this mid-range one. Median doesn't really have a formula, but this one here for mean you could put on up at the top. Okay, just a dedicated sheet with just formulas, no examples that we can use anytime we have a test, a quiz, exam if we have one, project, whatever that case might be. Okay, thank you for watching Day 1, Mean, Median, Mode Notes. Have a great day.